Today was my first day trying to learn Japanese, and I know it sounds silly making an update video about your first day. However, I want to tell a little bit of my background of language learning, how I give up Korean to start Japanese, my strategies to the first month, and my reference. At the same time, I want to make a video about the first day because in the future I can see what I was wrong and my improvement. So to tell a little bit of my language learning background, I'm Brazilian and I learned English for the past 3 years with a teacher who has a method that focuses on immersion. Immersion is about consuming content in the target language without subtitles or any alteration to make it easy to learn. It's about watch or reading the same content that a native would have. The idea of immersion starts with the Stephen Krashen and the comprehensible input.
Acquire language in one way and only one way. When we understand messages. We call this comprehensible input.
When he said that we just acquire language when we see messages that we can understand. So, immersion.
We've tried everything else. We've tried grammar teaching, drills and exercises, computers, etc. But the only thing that seems to count is getting messages you understand, comprehensible input.
Then I started watching Manifest Japan, Sue, and Mikomino, and I learned more about it. And what I mean by that is Japanese is not going to be my first experience in language learning. I know how it feels when we don't understand the sentence. I know the techniques that works for me, the expectations with that language, and so on. However, I'm going to try new ideas. I try to not waste my time so much as I did with English. For example, in the first year of learning English, I focused just on reading the same material over and over again, instead of building vocabulary. At the same time, Japanese is very different than English and Portuguese, so it's going to be a challenge for me anyway. After finishing the 3 years of learning English, I have 1,000 of hours of input. I started to think what will be the next language that I'm going to learn. I picked Korean because I love the story of the country and Hangul is so beautiful that I had to try. However, for the past 6 months I didn't have any progress. Why? Motivation. If somebody is a stoic that can do things without motivation and work, good. However, I don't have the same mindset, and I learned the hard way that motivation is actually really important. For me, it was easy to start to learn English because it would be great to my job, to talk to people around the world, my life in general. However, I didn't have the same motivation for Korean. I learned in the hard way that the source of motivation for learning a language is really about what you can do just in that language. The more you can do with that language, the more motivation you will have. For example, my love for Korean history could be a research about the topic in English. However, for Japanese, there are a lot of things that I can do just in Japanese. I love person games, anime, manga, and Japanese culture in general. So to consume all of this in the first hand, I have to learn Japanese. And I feel motivated. So for this first month, I will focus on building vocabulary through Anki, without immersion into a complete 500 words. I think jump right away for immersion was one of my mistakes with Korean. It's just unbearable to spend half an hour and just speak 2 words. My idea here is prepare myself to the immersion and keep myself motivated in the first month. Because through immersion, especially for Asian language, is really hard to understand if you are doing the right or wrong. However, in Yankee, you know right away if you're right or wrong about the word that you are studying. And same time, I will skip the kanji fluency and focus on vocabulary. I really don't know if it's the best idea in the world because the majority of people focus first on kanji, but as I said, I'm doing some tests.